Hey YouTube, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and today we're in the display room, which somebody said on a Facebook group when I posted a picture, we don't film in here enough. Well, I'll tell you what, YouTube, true story, I would love to film more in the display room playing with rattlesnakes and carpet pythons and whatever else is hidden in here I can't tell you about yet, but you have to watch it more. We don't film in here as much because y'all don't click on it, so if you want to see more, click on that. But today's not about crazy snakes, it's about this box. See, we have a problem here at Olympus Reptiles. And my problem is this. This is Old Faithful right here, our good old purple incubator. I'm going to give you guys a pro tip. If you want to write on your incubator like I did, it's really cool. Use chalkboard paint. I hate the sound of chalk on a chalkboard. It's one of those things that just makes my skin crawl and makes me want to like go into a murderous rage. So I don't do that. So I used a chalk pen, right? It doesn't wash off. Usual chalk. So this is clutches from 2 or 3 years ago. But last year we did about 21, 22 clutches. This year, if you open our incubator, you'll see, well, hell, it's completely full. I've got absolutely no room, and the big one's even sharing 2 clutches in it. So,
and you also have another tiny incubator down here.
Yes, I have a tiny incubator over there going with 1 clutch. And I know it says 91, so like it's too hot. That thing actually runs 2 degrees too high, so 91 is about 89. So anyway, we're out of space. So we've been waiting on this to arrive for a while, and this thing, well, it looks rough. You know, rough. I got a soft spot for some of that kind of stuff I do. Some of the homemade things. I actually know this incubator. And I can tell you, back in the day, this incubator's a piece of shit. It didn't incubate anything. It was a wooden box. Part of it was where it was located. It was probably too hot to begin with, so when you're trying to heat something up in a hot space, yeah. You could push in here and the whole damn door would fall in. It was not in good shape. And then it's a small world, and this incubator went from there to somebody else, and then it went from that person to you.
Me.
But you knew it back in the day, too.
I did. I was very hesitant. They just wanted it out of their house.
Yep.
And I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I know the history of this thing. I don't really want to put a whole lot into it to try and get it to work. Here it is, kind of full circle, because it went for me, because I did end up picking it up, modified it quite a bit. I did do that, even though I said I wasn't going to. And I used that for all of my clutches, never had issues, and it worked great, worked all the kinks out. And
so how many did you hatch in here last year?
Oh, you would ask that question.
Just ballpark.
Would it last year? It would have been either last year or 2 years ago.
In the last couple of years.
We probably had, between ball pythons and corn snakes, 50, 60 babies.
So they all did fine.
All did fine.
So no issues whatsoever. What are some of the things that got modified on this bad boy?
Well, for one, the door was this. It wasn't even this piece. They had it was a really, really thin piece of just
really thin.
Well, I don't know if it was plexiglass.
It was so thin. I remember you could push on it and go in and go whoa, 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 whoa.
You could do that with it. And so we used. I can't remember what kind of caulking we used on this to seal it in. Then we also just bolted it in too, because to be honest, if you're heating things up, you've got caulking sometimes that over time it's going to denature, and I really didn't want to fuck with pushing that on. We're on YouTube, not Patreon.
Fire truck.
I didn't want to mess with that. So that was rerouted. The hinges on here worked really well. The problem was there was like an inch, like a good inch of gap. And so all your heat was just escaping. Not that it really mattered, but all your humidity was escaping.
It does matter, though.
So,
totally.
We put weather stripping in there. We added some more insulation boards inside because, again, like Matt will testify, that insulation board was very thin for the amount you need, especially for something this size. I mean, you open up that door. I mean, this door is the size of the actual incubator.
Yeah, I'm 6'2", and this thing's as tall as me.
So yeah, you'd open that up, and literally all your heat just rushes out. So, adding more insulation, and then we would put a water tub in the bottom to kind of help regulate, or I guess we use water bottles, a metric ton of water bottles.
Either one works.
And it works so much better now. I love this thing. I can literally stand in it, because these boards actually come out, so I can stand in it. Like, it's solid, and Curtis can testify This thing was miserable to get in here.
I'm not wearing my normal purple outfits. I thought I'd be doing a whole bunch of work, but I'll be honest, the camera guy and Caleb had this in and set up before I even got out and done taking a poop today. So I got a text like, "Hey, dude, where you at?" And I'm like, "Poop emoji." They're like, "Well, we're waiting on you. It's already set up." So sometimes a well-timed poop will get you out a lot of manual labor. So a couple things I noticed about it, too, is since you guys have had it, like this latch doesn't come off. You have to actually push on it.
Yes.
Which means it's making a very good hard seal there to help hold that in. We did add, I was going to throw a door in your face, a fan. So, and then we wanted the shelves, which I don't know, you probably have this way too, but for movement it wasn't, where there's a gap in the back and there's a gap in the front. And that is simply for airflow, so air can flow around on all sides of this thing. We like our fan on top, for those of you who are wondering why we put it up there and not at the bottom. I want you to think about this. Heat rises, so what's going to happen? Speaking of the window strip, hey, don't come off, buddy. I'll retape you. Heat rises, right? So we're going to want to push air down through this front channel, allow it to get cooler, then come up the back as it heats and cause some circular airflow to try to make it more stable all across the board. We did something similar in our purple, but we're heating the sides and the fans in the middle to get two of those going. But you want that to circulate pretty well, so you don't have a huge difference here versus down there. We'll probably stack on this first shelf first, and then if we need to, we'll stack on the bottom shelf. This is going to hold a lot more clutches for us. So we once we test it, get up to temp, make sure it's working good, which you guys will do. Well, this guy's deep sea fishing. We'll be ready to run it. The only thing I can see modifying for next year is I might add a second piece of plexi here if I can get it to fit, or something similar, just because of make an air gap there. But otherwise, look how thick this insulation board is, and before it was nowhere near this.
No.
Right? And when you're looking at an incubator, guys, these things aren't really rocket science. It's a big insulated box to maintain temperature. That's why we used a fridge once, because a fridge is a big insulated box to maintain temperature. It doesn't matter if you're cooling it or heating it. It's all about it being insulated. The weak spot in this would obviously be the front, because you got the one panel of plexi, but you've got so much insulation everywhere else, it's going to probably be as well insulated as that fridge. In all honesty, plenty of heat tape to run it. We're going to run it off of a Herpstat 2 on the secondary probe. I don't know, how did you run the probe in this thing? That's one thing I haven't figured out yet.
So, we're going to have to play that around with your size of the collection.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have all my babies all at once, so it was very spread out. So I would probably only have 2 clutches in at a time. And I would just have one tub, and then I'd have the probe just in the dead center.
But where did you bring it in at?
There's a hole right here
that
just sticks right through.
Awesome. So we'll probably actually do the same thing. We'll run it through and drop it down right around in here. But we'll probably just attach it here with some tape or something. The idea being that's where I want to know where my temp is and where I want to set it to. So this is it. This is what's going to really help us. Guys, we are at, I think we just did clutch number 35. Was that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
34. And out of those 34, 2 of them were live bears. So that's 32. So we've had 32 sets of eggs this year. Out of those 32 sets, 14 have hatched. Because one of them was a live bear. We're up to clutch 15 hatching. 16, because the other live bear. So we have a lot of clutches in our incubator right now. If you do the math, I want to say it's like 16 or 17. And this week alone, we should drop 2 to 3 more. And we're getting near the end of the season, but if we didn't set this up, we would have been out of space for about 3 or 4 clutches having to maternally incubate, and that is not a situation I want to be in. We probably should have been on this ball a little bit earlier. I know it seems like when you're watching this, why'd you wait so long? Well, truth be told, we had this planned, and just life got in the way, so it kept having to get rescheduled to move this and get this done. So we've had a plan for this. It just got to be like, okay, we got to do it on an emergency basis. So it wasn't a scramble. We knew this was going to happen for, a month now, guys? Roughly, or a month and a half, because we could tell where we were going to be at in our incubation. So, yeah. Kurt, do you have any questions about the big incubator, the big white knight, I guess? I don't know. That's probably a bad name.
I do.
What's your question?
Why did I have to use my truck to go get it? Because you have a truck.
So, this thing's big and heavy, and my truck has a tonneau cover on it. And it only folds over 2/3 of the bed, so it would have been up against the tonneau. The way we had a brace would have been against the tonneau, and it might have damaged my tonneau cover. My truck, she's a gentle beast. So it would just fit better in your Ford F-150. It's what your thing's made for, hauling crap into bed. My truck's more made for adventure and looking badass. That's it. That's all I can really say on that. And for the record, so what we're talking about, for y'all that don't know, this probably should be a Patreon topic, but hell with it, you're going to get a little bit today, is there's a little bit of truck rivalry between Kurt and I lately, because Kurt's always been a truck guy. I think it's because he's, 5'4", 5'5", and when you're short, you got to have a big truck. I've never been a truck guy. I've never owned a truck in my life. And then my wife said, I think we need a truck. And I said, we don't need a truck. Then they gave me my money back on my Wrangler. And I said, I think I need a truck. So I have a Gladiator. Kurt has a Ford F-150. And Kurt's always giving me shit that my truck ain't a real truck, because it is kind of the mullet of trucks. And I will give him, his F-150 is going to outhaul my Gladiator. It is. It's going to pull better than my Gladiator. It will. But my roof comes off, so do my doors, and mine looks bitchin'. And you got to experience off-roading in it, and don't let Kurt fool you, as we're going up this crazy incline with four-wheel drive cruise control, and the thing's just barely moving, not giving a shit up or down on the rocks. He looks at me and says, and this is as hard as getting Kurt to admit he likes champagne, he goes, okay, this is a real truck. After before, he would say it's not a truck. So he did admit to it. Don't let him fool you. Anything else you want to add as to, why your F-150 had to do the manual labor while my truck did the boss work?
No.
Kevin, you want to add?
No.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. We're going to go over to Patreon and tell you what's going to be in this thing next to give you a little bit of a preview of what's coming. There's some exciting shit in there. And also what just got laid, which we're going to go film our live bear hint clutch brood. I guess it's technically a brood. Because you have three things. You have clutches of eggs, right? Litters of babies. But certain snakes, I believe, is technically a brood. I'm not sure what the difference is. Why is one a litter and one a brood?
It's going to be, I don't know.
Or maybe it's interchangeable.
It might be.
Maybe it's because one hint can kill you. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.